Welcome to Malcolm Presents. Actually, it's welcome to Malcolm and We, heard exclusively on Malcolm Presents, streaming directly to you and the rest of the world. Anyway, I'm your host, Malcolm Berman. This is my co-host, Yana Larson. And Yana, please introduce our guest.
Why, thank you, Malcolm. Today we have Kumara, and he is a real jack of all trades kind of guy. He's got skills in piloting, car repairs, and working with industrial machinery. As a senior teacher at the School of the Heart in Cyprus, which he has to explain, he helps guide people on deep inner journeys using old meditation methods. But that's not all. He's also into alchemy, crafting unique drinks and combining different cuisines.
But could we make
Kumara,
gold? Wasn't that the big alchemy type of thing, trying to make gold?
Malcolm, you're interrupting me.
Oh, sorry.
Kumara's goal is to share practices and insights that can help create a more peaceful world. He's all about promoting inner peace for everyone and collaborates with experts to make it happen. Born in the Philippines in 1972, he now calls the North American enclave home, integrating various ideas and theories into his everyday life. I met him through my work with Antoinette Rutstatahal, who was a previous guest, and her group Ubuntu International, which includes Kumara. And he will tell us all about that as well as his other activities. Welcome, Kumara.
Thanks for having me, Yana and Malcolm.
Yeah,
It's a
well,
pleasure being here.
welcome aboard. By the way,
Thank
with
you.
all your background, I would think, how come you didn't decide to run for president? No, you couldn't. You were born in the Philippines. Sorry.
Well, there's Earth behind me.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, there you go.
I mean, I want to we want to bring the whole world into harmony.
Yes, and that's the whole point to the web of life.
Yeah.
You know, the 13 grandmothers in our ancestors that who they represent, tying it all together through the planetary. So it's down, so that we can understand ourselves as well as tying in the horizontal as well as engaging with the vertical, which is engaging our planet in every walk of our lives, every breath, and then all the way up to the cosmic field, because everything is
How do
connected.
you actuate this? I mean, I mean, lofty goals, and I agree with you, but how do you
It's in the
make
moment.
it happen?
It's doing it every single day. So even if I'm, let's say, because I have 7 jobs, so
Yeah,
and in,
seven
in
jobs.
yeah, within my 7 jobs, I always integrate joy and happiness as we were designed to, and that is our birthright, is to not be stressed out. When we have stressful situations, what do? I take a deep breath and then out. I'm taking shaman training now too, and it's really upgraded the way I could integrate in the moment when something is happening, whether it's very joyful or whether it's dismaying. Is to have that even almost like the art of living is the art of dying. So
The art of living is the art of dying.
it's the same thing, really. So, when people are just like really fearing death, it's because they have not lived the life fully. Like when I do decide, or if I decide to go, just like Yogananda did at that very moment before he got on the stage, he just passed out. He made a decision. I'm going now. He went happily, and some people go happily. Well, I was actually exposed to the death cycle since I was very young, and my mother, my earthly mother, who's not with us anymore, prepared me at a very young age. She said, "One day I'm going to be going, and you'll have to learn the skills that I'm encouraging you to learn. Learn new languages, learn all the skills you can, learn how to sew, learn how to cook, learn how to build." So I was actually building robots at, at age 7.
Wow.
Yeah.
So we have you to blame for that.
Sure. And in the entire cosmos, there really is no blame because we're all connected. So, and that's something I like to touch upon too, is like when I've done wrong or I've done an error that made me feel terrible, what do? Through my practice, I say, I love myself anyways. I forgive myself. And that has to come from the synchronization of our mind that does the direction and our brain, our heart brain, as well as our head brain. So the two main power centers, but there's also a third power center, which is our gut. And through heart math, you probably heard of heart math. They've done
Mm-hmm.
studies. The heart always knows first, and then the brain processes it, and then you have body response.
Well, that's, I mean, years ago, what I did a study on the gut reaction.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems like sometimes, and they were doing that. There was I think I talked about, I don't know if this show, or one of my other shows, that they did a study of that. I think it's University of Texas or one of the universities in Texas about business and gut reaction. And it turned out like more than not, I think it was like 8 out of 10 times, your gut reaction, the thing that you really felt you should have done is the thing you should have done. And all of a sudden, the mind comes into play and you begin to question, the gut. But the gut was
Mm-hmm.
the important thing, but you have to be able to reach it.
Yes, you're right. And we've been in trained to always follow the head
Yeah.
first before anything else. And actually, that got us into a lot of trouble. It
Yes.
led us into systems that actually is linear. And you'd mentioned Ubuntu, Yana.
Mm-hmm.
Ubuntu, that word, is an ancient African proverb. It directly translates in English to I am because we are because I
Because I
am.
am.
We need each other to survive. We need each other to create systems that are actually circular, that lead to abundant flow, just like how our Earth actually operates. When there's the life cycle and there's a death cycle, well, that death cycle actually feeds the Earth a new an energy that's, let's say, that the plant kingdom, it synthesizes the light from the sun. It also synthesizes the information from the ground through the mycelium network. I'm kind of going pretty deep here, but this is kind of stuff that I'm really
Well,
into.
we have a really motivated audience because I said we are involved, Malcolm and we. I don't know. Are you familiar with We the World?
Yes,
Yeah, that's
Mm-hmm.
basically what we're trying to promote is We the World and showing how people working together
yes, and it actually
versus
works.
individually. It's the we, not the I.
Exactly.
Right.
The
And
I
the three
actually
eyes
disappears.
become the we.
Hmm. And the I becomes that collective, right? It's not the singular anymore. When we say I in a new meaning of within the golden age era, we are saying all of us. That's the I,
The embodied
the
we.
Right.
embodied, the I that actually looks upon itself, that God expresses itself, himself, herself, or whatever you want to call it, uh, of the expression that it wants to experience on this plane of reality, which we call Earth, earthly
Yeah.
bodies,
But
right?
you know what the misnomer is, and people uh, forget it, is that in order to make I a we, you have to have a very strong I and a very strong ego to let yourself go.
Yes,
Because if
you're
you
right,
don't, you hang on to that egotistical thing.
right.
You
The
hang on to
imbalance.
your, yeah, to your ego.
Hmm.
Uh, I hate to bring politics into it, but we have one of our politicians that basically works on his ego. He has a very weak ego, and this is his
Yes.
problem.
Hmm.
Yes.
And
It's all about him and
yeah, and if you
what
listen
he
to his
wants and what he
Hmm.
thinks, but it's not about we, and what was good for all of us.
right, but
Yeah,
again,
and we
in order to give up your I, you have to be str really a strong person.
you have to be very at a very deep rooted level,
Right.
be not just sovereign minded, but sovereign beingness, right? So you have to be a sovereign without even using any label.
Mm-hmm.
You just be who
Mhm.
you are in your own uniqueness. And that's
Yes.
why, I went through a phase where, it's like we're here on Earth, we're experiencing what we're experiencing, especially the difficulties of yesteryears, which is very recent, and we know what's going on. And because of the things that we have come into realization. We needed that catalyst in order to come into that realization. And also, when before all this happened with the health stuff that's going on, I had a bit of a premonition where I thought we're going to have to spirit hack this when it actually happens. And just like you asked me earlier, Malcolm, how do you integrate this? Well, it's on the daily life. How do I deal with someone who is doing wrong in the world, who's doing terrible things? Well, I had to look at it from a different perspective within the Ubuntu realm of I am because we are. I look at it as that hurt people.
Yes.
And the healed help others to heal. So when we see someone creating pain, causing pain, we can identify it as they have a parasite in them, they have toxins within them, or they were brought up in a paradigm where that was taught.
Mm-hmm.
And then so do do I go into blame? I can't really go into blame. I look at it for what it is. Would I do that action? No, because I know who I am.
Mm-hmm.
I know my role. I'm supposed to bridge people who are actually very strong. And this is to no surprise that I end up on your show because I look
Exactly.
upon you both as doing the same thing too. You're
Yeah.
bridging great minds and hearts that are synchronized within one, within all, right? So that's a beautiful thing. And that's something that you have to feel. It's experiential. You can't really teach that.
No,
So when people
it's
say, "Oh, are
inborn.
you a teacher?" It's like, "No, I'm a reminder. I'm a reminder."
That's good.
I look at politicians as the great disturbers. They're
Yes.
catalyst.
But they could be the great teachers.
They could be too, right? So because there are always very, very many angles to every paradigm, we can't look at it from one perspective. And that's why when the ego is heavy or it's all about me, that me that's speaking, whether it's subconscious, conscious, or superconscious, it's just from one angle.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
And
when something's going on, you got to see it from so many different angles, and that takes a lot of practice.
yeah. How do you
Yes.
go about trying to reach people? Or, I mean, I know individually, because I do that individually when I do shows and things, but I don't really have a forum that I go out to, expound this philosophy. I do if people happen to watch my show or I know them, but there are, so many people in the world. How do you take your philosophy and spread it around?
I I mirror with others. So as you said, you don't have a platform, but from my angle, you do,
Hmm.
because all you have to do is shine your light, even in within the screen and the technology that we have now. It actually has an effect. Just because it's like, here's an example. When the sun goes down the horizon every night, it doesn't mean that there's no sun. It's just shining somewhere else.
Hmm.
And we go through that cycle. Just because you think it might not be your information's not getting out there, actually it is getting out there. Especially when we have different beautiful crossroads that actually those bindu points, like when you have this going this way, this trajectory going this way, it's that point in between right here. That's where a new light shines.
Hmm.
And that comes from the creator. And we are a piece of that.
And that's why we're all together and have come
Yeah.
together in our own ways.
We can't do it alone.
No, we can't.
And
And that's what's so cool about Ubuntu and what
mhm.
Antoinette and Pato were doing. How did you find out about Antoinette and what they
um
were doing?
when I was the director of operations with Unify, have you heard of Unify?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
I was
cool.
there for 2018 to the beginning of 2020.
Oh.
I was living on the West Coast with the founder, Adil, and then his family actually lives in Edmonton. That's how I ended up here. And and that was a piece of it. The other piece was me having nightly dreams that the water was coming. The water was coming. Go east of the Rockies. So that's what I did. That's how I ended up here. Yeah. And within
Wow.
2 weeks of moving here, there was a community around me because I came with a new light towards myself. So when we direct light and love within us, the universe reflects it back to us.
Do you
I
look
didn't
back
feel
on
alone.
your life? Do you look back on your life and see that happening over and over and over?
I'm
Just,
always supported
yep.
no matter what. And then my father, even back in 2006, he goes, I don't, how do you even live your life? You don't make a lot of money, but you live like a king. I said, I don't ask for it. It just comes because,
And
and it's also,
actually, you
it
don't
took my
need a,
skills. It took my skills, right? I
yeah.
trade my skills and I honor what I learned. I honored my roots. I honored my lineage. Have you heard of Jose Rizal? He's the
Mm-mm.
hero
No.
of the Philippines. He's my great uncle. And I feel him a lot around me all the time.
Wow.
Well, two things we talked about. Number one, we're talking about death.
Yes.
And people truly don't die as long as you remember them. You know,
Yes.
their physical being is not there and you can't call them, but you can talk to them.
You
They
can
can't
talk
talk
to them.
back, or sometimes they do, but that's getting a little weird. But you can talk to them. What happened to me recently? My father passed away 1961. You know, it's a long time ago. And a lot of the people that knew him, you know, are no longer around, you know, especially like relatives and people that were close to him. About 2 years ago, or 3 years ago, I got a call from this woman who said, "Was your father Arthur Berman?" That's his name. I said, "Yes." She said, "I'm your niece." I said, "What?" It turned out that my dad got married in 1920,
Wow.
and and he had a daughter, but the wife's family didn't like him because he was sort of like a street kid.
Mm.
In New York. He was a professional boxer, you know, really tough guy. But
Your
anyway,
dad?
yeah,
Wow.
my dad was a professional, a pro fighter, bantamweight. But anyway, and he had a daughter who I met was like about 100. Well, I met her over the Zoom. But when they started speaking about him, it sort of like brought him alive again. It was, and I got that feeling as long as you know, someone remembers you, you're not dead. And then,
Mm-hmm.
Well, they're just existing on another plane of existence,
right.
really.
And
Correct.
so yeah, that's an interesting concept.
Yeah, and then really being open to concepts actually open up, I call them portals, open up doors of opportunity, open up the field to more inspiration to come in. And even that word, inspiration, to inspire, to stay in spirit, right? And then there had been, especially when the time of the gold, the Iron Age, you know, heavy in the mind, the patriarch, the matriarch, the dualism, duality, that it's very fixed. Again, it goes linear, and in the Ubuntu paradigm, which is the best way to translate it, everything is circular, everything is cyclical. When there is a death, that is an opportunity to open up a new life form. That's why when even the tradition in the Philippines, when let's say a grandfather passes away, it's the grandchildren, I believe, at under the age of 7, which is interesting, sacred numerology. They are handed over, I believe, by the uncles and aunts over the casket.
Hmm.
It's a tradition that they have to remind uh, everyone, including the child, that there is connection. There are intergenerational connections to our ancestors.
And children are more aware of it.
They are more aware of it as children. That's why children see more things.
Hmm.
And when they say to their mommy or dad, especially in the 70s and 80s, hey, I saw grandpa sitting at my bedside, they're like,
Mm,
no, that's just your
mm.
imagination,
Yeah.
right? That's part of the program.
Yeah.
They don't mean harm
Yeah.
by it. It was just through succession
They're just
that
more aware
became.
of it, and it's
Mm,
and then it gets taught out of them that, oh no, you that couldn't have happened, you're just
mm-hmm,
making that up. It was that show you watched or whatever, and it
mm-hmm.
made you think of
And
that.
it's interesting because there are comms in shows. You know how, let's say, even Back to the Future, there was a lot of communications back then
Yeah,
as a clue.
right.
And then, do you know about tacit consent? Because I actually studied
Yeah, tacit
contract law.
consent.
It's part of it. It's when they show, like, it's getting worse too. They're showing like really bad things on TV. They're sensationalizing horror flicks and all that stuff. And this is no judgment to anyone who likes horror, but what is actually happening is they watch it and they accept it, and when they say nothing, it means yes, I actually consent
Or
to
condone
this
it.
energy to come in. And that's one of the reasons why I don't like horror flicks. If it's there, I do something, so it's a shield. But
Well, to
Hmm.
me, it's not necessarily horror flicks. It's sort of the war or the spy things, or the old cowboys. Like one of my favorite shows always used to be the Chuck Connors or the Rifleman.
mhm.
But now it's on. I see it on TV now. He kills like 4 or 5 people each episode.
And we didn't
Wow.
call it violence back
No.
then.
Yeah, you know what's really funny? We can accept it on the TV shows, but when it happens in real life, we don't say anything, right?
Yeah, we just because we're so jaded, we just see
Mm,
it so
Well, we
much.
don't say anything about the violence per se, but what we say, which is true, is how did you get the weapons of the weapon of violence?
hmm.
Like to me, I
It
don't
all
understand.
comes from the unseen world
Yeah,
first, right?
I don't understand why, the rifles, the AK-15s aren't banned. They're weapons of war. They're
Hmm.
not there to shoot. They're not sure there to shoot Bambis
Hmm.
or to protect us. They're weapons of war.
Hmm.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
why does a farmer need those, for
You don't.
example?
I mean, when I went to a certified massage therapist because I was working a lot. I had my own business at age 12. I was making a lot of money. That's why I was. That's why I had a sore back by the time I was in my late 20s. And
Well,
he
at the
said,
time you
"Well,
were 15, you had a really sore back.
I was always working. Like my peers at school, they said, "Where are you going?" I said, "I'm gonna go home to work."
Well, you say you weren't raised in the Philippines. You were raised in
Mm, Vancouver,
Canada.
Canada, yeah, on the West Coast. And I was doing a lot of studies, my own self studies on spirituality, on it wasn't even, I didn't even call it meditation. It was more contemplation and observing the world for what it was, for what it is,
Mhm.
and then getting to becoming. I became a millwright for a clothing factory for
A
good 10
millwright.
years. Yeah, so I actually, it was like a step above a mechanic.
Uh,
So I was like an industrial machine mechanic, and then I would actually tear apart two old machines and combine them so that it would eliminate someone from having a sore back. I would redesign a machine that
Ah,
would actually, so they could stand up at the machine or sit down. They can
uh,
go up and down, right?
instead of bent over.
Instead of bent over for hours on end, right? So I was always looking at how can I make someone feel better, right? And using machinery and how, and then
mm.
using my mind to formulate something that would actually be fixed but would help someone's life.
And I know why you knew that at such a young age too. When
But
Yeah.
you reminded me of when we were talking before about the light. One of my I grew up in the era of folk songs,
Mm, I
and
love folk songs.
and one of my people I loved was Pete Seeger.
Mm,
I
hmm.
don't know whether this is his original song or he just picked it up. This little light of mine.
Yes, I
hmm
remember
Little
that.
light of mine, I'm
Hmm.
gonna
I'm
let
gonna
it
let it
shine.
shine. Hmm.
This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine.
let it
I just
shine.
killed, by the way, I know I just killed the whole song for people who want to listen to this thing out of tune. But that's what
No,
you
if
were
I
talking
sang it,
about.
it would sound worse.
But that's what you were talking about, having the light and directing it.
Yes.
And just when you have the light, you're a little light, and
Hmm.
if you just expose it to other people.
That's right. Without the need for being perfect, because there's no such thing as perfect.
Well, my mother told me I was perfect.
The way you
Because you
are
were
as
a
a
good
being.
little Jewish boy. You
A
were
little
always
Yeah.
Jewish
perfect.
boy, I take of my first cousins many centuries ago. Jesus.
Ah,
Mm. Mm-hmm.
I always considered, like I grew up in a Jewish Catholic neighborhood. Most of you were the Jewish or I said or Italian, and if you're Italian, you were Catholic. And I
Isn't
always
it funny
considered,
how this world has all these camps?
yeah,
yeah.
I always considered Jesus my first cousin.
Yeah.
We was Joseph and Mary were Jewish. He was circumcised and he had a bar mitzvah. He's my cousin, so I never really saw the difference. And then when I read the Bible, if you just follow what he said, that
But,
would be a better world.
Mm-hmm.
oh,
Yeah, I mean, you don't
yes.
have
Yeah.
to, necessarily believe he's a god. That's up to
Right.
you.
He did amazing things,
Yeah,
right? Such as Buddha did some amazing things, just way off whack from their normal, lifestyle from their people, right?
right. Well,
And
even when again, I had mentioned I'm Jewish, and during the high holy days, Yom Kippur, and uh, if you go to temple, well, like the rabbi says, could you ask forgiveness for your sins? But you really can't forgive yourself. The people that you have sinned, you have to ask them for forgiveness.
hmm
Like God cannot forgive you for doing something to someone else. Only that other person can forgive you.
yes,
And
and
and and then the point of uh when you pray to God, you don't pray for something that you need for have God to help you. Your thing is, how do you help God to achieve a better world?
hmm
So, because
and
I think,
it's pretty simple too. We got to correct ourselves. If we know
mm,
what's right and wrong, we've gone down a dark path that was a little crooked, and we can see it for what it is. It's like I'm not going to do that again.
mm,
Well,
and
you have
That's
to
true
forgive
forgiveness of
yourself.
self, right?
yeah, yeah,
Right.
Forgiveness yourself. You have to
and
say,
generally, it.
hmm
yeah.
It just might
Generally,
be
you know it.
hard might be hard to do. Certain
It's
things, the
hard
right things are harder
doing
to
it for
do, but
doing it
it.
because yeah, doing it for self is one of the hardest things to do
Yeah,
because of the programming.
yeah.
But when we can actually crack that code, it becomes very, very easy to, when we say forgive someone else for what they've done wrong, it's because they're hurt that they do that.
Hmm.
So when we look at it from that perspective, we become a compassionate being. And it doesn't mean that we're condoning the ill act.
Hmm.
It just means I am going to change it at this moment. How? I got to do inside me first. So when I see someone doing something wrong, I'm looking at myself, okay, what's the aspects that's triggering me from this catalyzation to get this trigger in me arising,
Yeah,
right?
well, you have to recognize that you've done something wrong.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
A lot of people say, no, 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 that's not wrong. That's the right thing. You have to recognize it first.
Well, I think
Exactly.
you
And
have to look at intention too.
Right.
Like,
right.
did I intend to really go out and do something malicious and hurtful and whatever? Sometimes that is true.
Sometimes
But
that is true.
for I think the for most people, like, when my kids could look back on something and they say, "Oh, I can't believe I said that. I can't believe I did that," and I go, "But how old were you at the time? You can't know everything that you know when you're
Yeah. By the
30.
way,
So you're going to interrupt me, aren't you?"
I always interrupt you. Aren't you used to it yet? No,
Yeah.
we're running out of time, and I wanted to Kumara to say how we could reach you. How, do you have anything that's printed or?
Yeah, I sent it on the email. Like
Yes.
I sent it to Yana, so she
Yeah.
can forward it to you. My website is there, and there's
Well, could you tell
also,
it to I know it. Could you tell
oh,
it to
okay.
our audience?
Yes.
It would be you can go www.kumara, Kumara, and then the dash sign, heart.org. But you have to put a slash, forward slash, and then put heart imagery,
Mhm.
HEARTIMAGERY. Agery. Yeah. Yeah.
A-G-E-R-Y.
And then so you can actually get me there. And then you can always reach out to Yana. She's part of my team,
Mm-hmm.
one of the teams in Ubuntu International. And I've been sipping on my beautiful golden rose tea. I actually formulated. It took me 3 months to do that because I
Ah,
had a flavor in my heart and mind that I needed to target. And do I call it perfect? I'm like, it's always perfect in a way, right? It has 24 karat gold edible flakes, 99.8%, and it's good. It's got rose oil, auto, and absolute in there. It's got pu'er. It's got licorice root. It's
that
got
sounds good.
amazing. Oh, so good.
Yeah.
You should tell that to Yana also, because
Yeah.
we're gonna do a page
Okay.
that
All
has
right.
all
And
the
then
contact
so there
information
in
that
my
we.
website,
Yeah.
there's all these portals to amazing things, including
Is
my
a
patches,
recipe.
right? There's a patch, right? So I wear these light patches.
Is
Oh,
the recipe in
cool.
your website?
Pardon?
The recipe for your beverage in your website?
Oh, that's proprietary.
Secret.
Ah,
It's a secret. But you could try. I'll gift you a bag.
okay.
Ooh.
Yeah, both of you.
Sounds
Oh,
good. Anyway,
You
guys,
send me your mail address.
yeah.
it's time to go. I thank you very much.
Thanks
We
for having me.
appreciate it. And I
It's been
know
fun.
there's so many things that you really have to tell us. We'll definitely have you back.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you so much, Malcolm
Okay.
and
Thanks
Yana.
for your patience too, because I know you had a
Well, thanks for
emergency
your patience.
call,
Oh,
and
yeah.
we worked it out,
Yeah,
and so that we could do it today.
yeah,
So,
thank you.
And you're listening to Malcolm and We, heard exclusively on malcolmpresents.com. And tune in next week. Do we have our guest for next week?
yes, we do. We have, let me hang on. We are
I'm
going
hanging.
to have Dr. Tamsin Woolery Barker. She's in California, and it's something to do with biomimicry, and that's all I'm going to say.
Okay. And remember, listen to it, Kumara.
Okay, will do.
Okay.
Send me the link to watch.
Sounds good. Have a good week. Bye bye.
You too. Bye bye.